Hi everyone, so if you're new here, I'm Damaris, and today's video is how to have a zero waste Halloween. So to start with, the main things to remember really is to use what you have first and foremost. So if you've got old Halloween decorations from a previous year, then the best option environmentally would be to use what you have because you already have them. So making use of them year after year is the most environmentally friendly way. Next, if you're having a party of some sort, reusable items are always going to be better. So reusable plates, cups, anything like that is always the best way to go. And if you make things yourself, that will generally save you money as well. So the first section is costumes. So when I was in my 20s, I used to wear quite a lot of fancy dress costumes, and I think a couple of them I picked up secondhand, but some of them were brand new. And the trouble with brand new costumes is that they're usually made out of polyester of some sort, and they sometimes even have plastic bits actually on them. So environmentally, buying a brand new costume is definitely not the way to go. However, second-hand costumes are actually fairly easy to come across, or they certainly are in the UK anyway. So for my son is 7 now, but he's always loved dressing up. He has a big obsession with it. I think he was known as the dressing up king in his nursery as well, because they didn't have to wear a uniform or anything, and he would always turn up as Spider-Man one day, something else the next, you know. So he's a big fan of costumes. So every single costume that I have got for my son has been second-hand. So a few of them I bought off of eBay for various birthdays, and some I picked up locally. Somebody local to me was selling some costumes, and I've even had some given to me as well as hand-me-downs, so we've got quite a collection. So the main places to look for second-hand costumes, whether it's for children or adults, I would recommend Facebook Marketplace as the first place to look, because quite often people will be selling old costumes, especially leading up to Halloween, I've noticed. And the second place I would look would be eBay. So eBay's great for buying second-hand clothes in general. And like I said, I've got a couple of brilliant costumes from eBay for my son as well. So of course, if you buy these costumes second-hand, they are still going to be made from polyester or sort of synthetic materials in general. So there is that to bear in mind. And of course, you might not be aware of this, but items like polyester and that sort of thing, they shed microfibers in the wash, and it makes its way through the wash and eventually ends up in the ocean, and it's becoming a problem for fish. So that's just something to bear in mind if you do buy costumes that are made from synthetic materials. I personally don't tend to avoid it because I would find that extremely difficult to find a costume for my son that is not made from polyester, because he likes various superheroes, that sort of thing. Another idea that I think is actually quite good for costumes is you can hand make a costume. So if it's a child involved, you can get them to make their own costume out of a cardboard box, or whatever you've got lying around, which I think that's quite a fun idea if you're quite a crafty person yourself and you can put something together. That's definitely a great way of going about it. Another way that you can make sure that you have costumes when you need them is to borrow them. So I actually put a question on Instagram back along, but just before I was writing my blog post on this same subject, zero waste swaps for Halloween. So I asked a question on Instagram, and I just asked if anyone had any suggestions for a more sustainable Halloween. And one of the suggestions I got was to borrow costumes. So that could be either borrowing from friends or family. I've had a couple of people ask me back along if I had certain items in my dressing up box that we've got here for the family. So that's another way of going about it. You can borrow from friends and family if you know that they have certain costumes, or you can even ask in your own neighbourhood if they've got any costumes that you could borrow either for yourself or for children. And in the UK, generally we don't have a sort of rental service for costumes as far as I'm aware anyway, which I think is a real shame, because I think that is something that if I was doing something special, like actually throwing a Halloween party or something, I think I would like to borrow a costume for myself. I think that would just be great for some people if they didn't want to buy a second-hand costume, or if they just couldn't find what they were looking for. To have that option to rent is just amazing, really. So that's another way that you can have a more zero waste Halloween. So next section is decorations. So as I said at the start, if there's decorations or something that you've already got from a previous Halloween party or previous Halloween in general, then of course using those again is the best thing that you can do. Other than that, I think you can decorate with sort of natural fall materials around the home. So of course autumn, it has all of the beautiful dried leaves when they're changing colour, and you've got things like pumpkins and things like that, which are just really, they're just lovely to decorate for the season, whether it is specifically for Halloween or just for autumn in general, you know. So I've actually got a guest post on my blog from my blogger friend Sue from Earthful Enlightenment, and she wrote an amazing blog post for me, which was all to do with decorating with natural materials in the home. So of course I'll leave a link in the description box for this blog post in case you wanted to check it out, because she's got some amazing ideas, and most of them are just things that you can collect when you go for a walk. You know, it's a lot of them are not complicated things, and if you are more crafty and handy with a sewing machine, that sort of thing, she does have some other ideas on there as well. So if you're interested in more sort of handmade decorations for the home, let's say, then check out that blog post. So if you're not particularly handy with sort of arts and crafts and that sort of thing, you can buy some eco-friendly decorations on places like Etsy. So I've seen this really cool like vintage bunting on Etsy, and it has like bats and black cats and spiders and that sort of things on it. So that just made me think that decorating with something like that is of course plastic free generally, and it's quite a cute way to decorate the home. I've said in other videos, but I love bunting. I've got birthday bunting and I've got Christmas bunting. So in the future, when I'm not doing a no-buy year, I will probably get some sort of Halloween bunting as well. And that's something else that I'll keep, and I'll be able to bring it out year after year. So I just thought that was really cool. So the next section would be sort of food and treats. So if you're throwing a party, the food that generally comes in the supermarket, in the UK anyway, it's all wrapped in plastic. So it's very difficult to buy those sort of pre-made, ready-to-go party food without plastic. In fact, I think you'll probably find it almost impossible. So there are some simple ways that you can do it more zero waste, and that could just include things like turning a satsuma into a pumpkin, but just by drawing it on the skin. And you can even do something like cut up sandwiches into like tombstone shapes, or ghosts or bats if you're quite handy like that. I have to admit, I'm not the most skilled when it comes to baking and cooking, and although I think these ideas are really cool, I can't see myself going to that kind of length for like a Halloween party in the home. mostly just because I feel like I would be already stressed, and there's a lot to do, isn't there, when you're trying to host a party in your home. So I'm not sure how much of that I would do, but I would probably do a mixture of homemade and bought things to reduce the waste. Perhaps buy sort of larger boxes of sausage rolls or something like that, just so that you have that convenience food and you can make some things yourself. So next, of course, for Halloween would be for trick-or-treaters. Now, of course, last year I don't think many children would have been going around people's houses, as far as I'm aware, because of the pandemic that was going on. But people buy those multi-packs of sweets, and that's what the children will get if they go to the door is, some of those little bags of sweets, whatever the brand is, Haribo usually, isn't it? And things like that. But this year I decided that I personally didn't want to do anything like that. So I've got a few of these here to just sort of show. So instead of doing like the usual packets of sweets, oh, I'm going to drop that. I'm just going to put it down. I have done sort of as many as I could out of a bulk pack of sweets that I bought. I think it might have been 1 kilo. So I've packaged them up into these individual bags with string wrapped around them. So this is what I've decided that I'm doing for trick-or-treaters that come to our door, and I plan on making something fairly simple. Baking's not my forte, but I was going to do something like Rice Krispie treats or something like that. I've got plenty of spare paper bags now, and in fact the paper bags were left over from the birthday party that I just arranged for my son. So the way we had to buy these paper bags, we ended up with loads left over. So I took them home and I knew I would get a use out of them again. And the string is also what I used to wrap the packed lunches that they had. So I used fabric and I wrapped it up with string. So I managed to save all of the string, and I saved these paper bags. So I thought I might as well just use them for Halloween and just see how it goes, really. But as I was saying, I intend on making some Rice Krispie treats or something fairly simple, not too complicated, and just put them into some spare bags just to make sure that I've got enough for the neighbourhood, really. So another thing you can give out is fruit, and I don't know how well this will go down depending on where you are, but I think fruit would be a really great option to give out. I think if I was to do it, I would prefer to do a sort of sweeter fruit, like say if you had strawberries in season in your area or something like that. I think I would prefer something along those lines rather than giving out satsumas or something like that. But that's just my own personal preference, and although I love the idea of that, I just think that might not necessarily go down well everywhere. And that's about as zero waste as it gets, of course, if you can give out fruit. So next, I just wanted to do the quote, which is, "Sustainability is a political choice, not a technical one. It's not a question of whether we can be sustainable, but whether we choose to be." And that's a Gary Lawrence quote. I really like that one. I think this one refers to sustainability in business. That's my interpretation of it anyway. But I still thought it was very interesting, and I still think it could probably be applied to sustainability in general. So I hope my video was useful. Let me know in the comments if you're doing anything in particular for Halloween. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.